Jaylen Brown is approaching his 10th NBA season, and he's already put together a pretty impressive resume. 4-time All-Star, NBA champion, while also being the Finals MVP. But going into this year, this is going to be the first time we've ever seen Brown truly be the number one of an offense. So, with Jayson Tatum being out, and the ball primarily being put in Brown's hands, what exactly will this do to the Celtics offense? Will this catapult Brown's game to the next level, or will his shaky handle and limited passing put a cap on how effective he can be as a primary guy? Now, the first and obvious thing Brown does really well is score in isolation. Last year in the playoffs, the Celtics played more one-on-one basketball than anybody else across the league. Like we've seen, Joe Mazzulla loves to spread the floor with 4 or 5 shooters, giving his stars room to attack matchups, create breakdowns, to then bomb up 40+ threes. And even with the roster being different this year, I still see the Celtics sort of playing the same way. And again, with Tatum being out, the ball is going to be in Brown's hands a lot more. Now, from day one, Jaylen has always been a really good straight line driver. If he gets an angle with that strong right hand, he's quick, explosive, and really strong with coming downhill. And despite the hate, he's actually gotten much better at going left too. I do think he needs to get better at finishing with his left, but there has been some noticeable improvement. So because the defense is so paranoid about Brown's driving game, it's pretty easy for him to push them back off the dribble, to then create breathing room for these in-rhythm pull-ups. And this is also where I think Brown deserves a ton of credit for his much improved patience and control off the dribble. He's really good at skating with the ball back and forth, which both gets the defense off balance, as well as set up different moves off the dribble. We'll see him here transfer the ball between, to then float his feet up, setting up this left-right hezzy pull-up. This move here is super tough, where Brown is going to again go between and skip those feet up. But look how he lowers his shoulders and really sells that drive. Then he's going to plant that outside foot and whip this crossover, to then spin back over towards the middle. Off the bounce, Brown also has pretty good physicality. If he's got a smaller guard on him, he is very good at keeping the game simple and just using his body to bump his way to spots. And for any great scorer, the simpler they can keep things, the better. Now, the one sore spot in Brown's scoring is going to be his 3-point shooting. Last year, he shot just over 30% from behind the line, and his numbers on pull-ups were slightly worse. But regardless of those low percentages, I mostly don't have a problem with Brown rising up for threes if he has space. But at the same time, I do think Brown has been bitten by the Celtics 3-point shooting bug. There's times where he both pulls a mismatch up towards the perimeter and has space to play with, but he elects to rise up for an off-the-dribble contested 3. Take this play for example. He's got Towns isolated here in the corner with the full shot clock. From this spot, Brown should be cooking him off the dribble and putting pressure on the rim, but he instead gets cute and hits a couple of right-hand hezzies to then settle for another contested jumper. I also don't like this play, where Brown's again playing in isolation towards the corner. And look how Porzingis is going to space out towards the opposite block, which also pulls the backline defense across. Off the bounce, Jaylen should be looking to lower his shoulder and attack through Josh Hart's frame, but he again gets pushed out into a really bad step back. In the same vein, I also think Jaylen gets a little bit too dribble happy in isolation. Again, the foundation of his game is always going to be his speed, strength, and explosiveness. But instead of leaning into that, there's often too much probing or sizing up off the dribble. Now, taking some extra time to read the defense isn't always a bad thing, especially if it's an elite wing defender. But if he gets a switch against a guy like Jalen Brunson, there's no reason to play with the ball and make things more complicated. And what ends up happening is that both the man guarding the ball and the help side defense can use that extra time to get set, which typically leads to Brown getting funneled into more tough pull-ups. So again, while Jaylen has a lot of elite elements as a scorer, I still think he gets a little bit indecisive in certain spots. And that also bleeds over to the way that he reads the defense. With Jayson Tatum being out, the Celtics offense is going to need somebody who can create advantages. And in order to do that, a player needs to have two simple things. The first is scoring gravity, and the second is the ability to capitalize off that gravity. First, there's no doubt that with the ball in his hands, Jaylen Brown for sure commands plenty of respect from the defense, either drawing double teams or heavy gap help. But when it comes to reading the defense and mapping the floor, I still think Jaylen is a little bit raw. With the ball, he typically plays with that aggressive score first mindset, which may not seem bad on paper, but that does cause him to be late on passing reads. In my last video on Anthony Edwards, we talked about how he had to get better at making early reads and not being too reactionary to what the defense is doing. In the same sort of way, I also think Brown needs to get better at the same stuff. Look at this play. Bridges is going to leave Tatum on the wing and shift over towards the ball. For Jaylen, this should be an automatic skip pass, but he instead wastes his dribble, which then gives the Knicks defense more time to get set and rotate. Another issue Brown has is not looking to pass until after he's picked up his dribble, which again gives the defense more time to help and rotate. And pretty much all this comes back to him being a score first and pass second player, which is fine if you're just a go get a bucket type of guy. But if the ball is in his hands and things are flowing through him, he's going to have to simultaneously leverage and play off both his passing and scoring. And all those same limitations also carry over to his play at pick and roll. We're sure with the ball, Brown is an explosive scorer, but he really has a hard time reading and processing the game. First, with the ball, it's pretty easy to get him sped up off the dribble, where he'll either frantically drive into traffic or just outright pick up his dribble. And in the same vein, he also has to get better at slowing down and occupying the defense. Take this play for example. He's going to turn the corner off the screen to his right. And look how the big initially steps up to meet him at the level. From this spot, Brown has to find a way to keep his dribble alive, because that will keep the big pulled up, giving the screener more time to roll towards the basket. But look how Jaylen again quickly picks up his dribble, giving this big time to rotate back down. Out of pick and roll, Jaylen also needs to get better at reading the second side of the floor. Again, because of that scoring threat, he calmly pulls two defenders once he comes off these screens. But that then forces the weak side defense to rotate down. And that cross-court skip pass is a read Brown very rarely makes. We can see the same thing here, where he comes off the screen, pulls two towards the ball, to then force Cameron Payne to rotate down. But again, his head is down, and he's not seeing the second side of the floor. So while Brown may not be a super advanced passer out of pick and roll, the Celtics shooting and spacing still makes it pretty easy for him to force breakdowns. One thing they'll do a lot of is use shooters like Derek White or Peyton Pritchard as screeners. And if the defense gets caught putting two on the ball, these turn into easy slip out threes. And because Boston always has shooters spacing out on the wings and corners, the paint is often wide open for cuts and rolls. And if quick passes open up right in front of Jaylen, he is pretty good at making these quick and snappy reads. The Celtics here are going to set up a Spain pick and roll, with again two shooters in the corner, and Pritchard setting a back screen on the big defending the action. And this sets up a wide open lob at the rim. So obviously Brown isn't a Nikola Jokic or Luka Doncic level of passer, but he still has enough scoring juice to bend the defense and create breakdowns. And the good thing about Boston is that they have multiple guys who can both shoot and put the ball down. So all Jaylen has to do is create rotations and scrambles. And from there, guys like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard can capitalize with spot-up threes or attacking closeouts off the dribble. Now, I actually see Brown this year doing more of his damage off the ball. In the Celtics' first preseason game, they were really trying to get Jaylen some advantages off the catch by having him work off different off-ball screening actions. This was the first play of the game, where he's first going to catch and pitch it back to White, to then run off this quick flare screen. And while the play does get mucked up, the idea is to get Jaylen the opportunity to attack right off the catch. Another thing the Celtics did in early offense was have Brown work off these pin down screens from the wing, and if the defense goes under, he can pop these threes. And if they fight over, he can also turn the corner.
Here's Brown. That's good.
This is also a nice action here, where Brown first sets his back screen to then quickly blast off this cross screen, and he's able to catch and immediately work off this ball screen. So ideally for Brown this year, I don't think it should be about him playing with the ball and working off 100 ball screens. I think he has to find ways to make the game easier. Obviously the ball is going to be in his hands this year more than usual, but at age 28, I don't see him turning into this elite all-around passer. I think if he can continue to be a really good one-on-one scorer, continue to improve his outside shooting, while finding ways to create easy offense in the flow of Boston's system, he might have his best individual year. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments who the kids should break down next. The kids here.